chat. He's already making jokes, but it doesn't matter because we're live and we're here and we're 2 minutes late, I think. We were too busy talking movies before we went live. But welcome back to Skip It or Stream It. This is the movie review show for all of us with streaming channels and networks that we're trying to find what do we watch. Well, the three of us will get together, we'll watch some movies, and we'll let you know here's some things you could add to your list. As always with me, I got Fire Guy Ryan right here and Perry Comics down here. Ryan, it's good to see you this time.
Hey, I'm awake. I'm here.
He didn't sleep in, everybody.
Ugh. It's good to be back.
Poor
it's good
guy.
to be back on TV with you guys.
Yeah, poor guy. And then Perry, we had just enough time to level a few guys in WoW and then jump over here to talk movies.
Oh, man. Yeah. You know, John blew me. John's old man Perry character really outdid me in the game.
That's right. I named one of my characters Old Man Perry just for the hell of it, just for the fun of it. So at some point, that guy will be running around. So let's jump in the chat and say hello to the folks who are tailgating. Ben Compton and Old Wolf were in there right early. Perry jumped in to say hello to them. Bueller's in the chat. Bueller is a movie fiend, and I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun seeing him in the chats and when he jumped on with us. Much appreciated, sir. And then TJ, thank you. Much appreciated. And Mr. Garrell jumped in. Hello, sir. So again, we try to do channels like Netflix or Amazon Prime because those are the ones that seem most prolific. Everybody has them. So we can easily recommend movies that maybe you can add to your watch it lists. This is an all Netflix episode. So all of these films that we're going to talk about tonight are on Netflix. You can go and watch them and stream them right now. But of course, month by month, all that changes. So hopefully they'll be up for a little while. This is an all sci-fi episode. We're trying out some themed ideas here. Week to week, we're going to try to throw you a group of films that might have something in common. And maybe you're a sci-fi fan, and this would be an episode for you. Now, at the same time that they're sci-fi, Ryan is doing the wishy-washy hand because I like movies that are somewhere in between. They're not straightforward. Right. They're none of these movies are Star Wars, right? No. But they're certainly futuristic, and I think we'll get some interesting takes on humankind. We're going to start with Perry's pick first. Perry is dreading this a little bit. I know that he was not a fan of his own pick 2 weeks in a row.
Hey, I'm picking random movies that look interesting, but you know what? They're just not that good, you know? So I'll bear, we all bear the pain so you guys don't have to watch these movies.
All right, brother.
All right, let me...
Yep, that's the wrong... There we go.
Oh, here it is. We got it up. All right. In a dystopian near future, single people, according to the laws of the city, are taken to the hotel where they are obligated to find a romantic partner in 45 days or be transformed into a beast and sent off into the woods. Starring Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz.
Nailed it.
Pretty good, right?
I didn't write it for him, folks.
No, don't worry. IMBD did.
I took a break from writing them this week because honestly, I was a little bit peeved that I had to watch this movie again because I watched it once already. But Perry, let's start with you. Obviously, it's your movie. What'd you think, man?
Well, when I was looking for movies, I was looking for something that sounds good. And, you know, listening to the synopsis, it sounds a little bit like, you know, this could be good. But I was terribly wrong. This is a horrible movie. This movie put me to sleep multiple times in my desk and on the couch. I would recommend you avoid this movie. There is no need to watch this. Yeah, pretty accurate. You know, a good like 2.0. I give it 2. I give it 2 because the music inside is pretty good, and it's actually really good music to fall asleep to. So, yeah.
What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts on The Lobster?
I liked the music, but I definitely wouldn't say I could fall asleep to it. It just kind of jumps in there with these really harsh rings. It reminded me a lot of the There Will Be Blood soundtrack, which I'm a big fan of. But, the violins just like cut at you really hard, and like I remember just it kind of like woke me up because
did the opposite for me. It
I
put
was
me to
falling
sleep.
asleep too during this movie. And I think this is the first unanimous skip it that we've had. Is that right?
Bueller was on. We had a Bueller skip it last week, all three of us, but it was also Perry's pick.
That's true. I'm seeing a pattern here.
I don't hate the movie though. That's the thing. I don't hate it. I just really don't enjoy it. If that makes any sense.
I felt like it started off good. Like the idea of if you're going to be transformed to an animal, I thought it was interesting that he picked a lobster and the reasons why he picked a lobster, but I don't know, just
yeah. So the filmmaker, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, Yorgos Lanthimos. He had a pretty big hit with a movie last year called The Favorite about queens in England. Let's see here. Centering around, Queen Anne as she falls ill. And this also had Rachel Weisz, but he's known for these kind of quirky films where it's less about like plot in a straightforward kind of sense. It just kind of meanders, and there's very unusual characters that you'll never see anywhere else. The humor is very dark. And with this movie, The Lobster, you have some very lonely people in some very vulnerable places in their lives. And then underneath it, you've also got this like class warfare thing going on. Like the rich, like, you're on one level, and other people feel like they're lesser than because they're on a different level. So there were interesting things. Like I kind of see what you're saying, Ryan. I just felt like it was all undercut by just not really going anywhere and just kind of skipping. Like I felt like it was almost three movies spliced together and never really went anywhere meaningful for me. I had no emotional connection. I was just completely devoid of emotion through this.
How did you guys feel about the ending?
Meh.
Yeah, that's a good word.
I liked the ambiguity. I'm a fan of question endings. Like I like how it didn't just wrap everything up and explain the whole film. I like how it left you thinking at the very end.
And he's known for that too. Yeah. Again, these films are very popular with certain critics. It always is a reminder to me not to read anything by those critics ever again. Like because I generally like critics. I view it as a very useful part of like art. But at the same time, this film is a huge flat dud for me. No, it's not. Don't worry about the spoilers. Downright Nerdy podcast. It's probably not anything you want to waste your time with. The movie is, in one word, annoying. That's a solid review right there. So yeah, I would give it, something like a 2 out of 10. I mean, there were nuggets in there, but nothing I would ever want to see again.
I would go a little higher and do like 4 or 5.
That's nice of you. Yeah. Very kind of you.
That is kind.
So we started with this one because Perry's like, let's just get it out of the way because the other two movies are better than this one.
Much better, yes.
So we'll throw that one away. Move on. I believe I'm going second. So I will now skip over to my turn. And let's see. This one I think is mine. Nope. Wrong one. Wah, wah.
Ooh.
Spoiler alert. Sorry, better label my tabs a little better.
Be careful what you pick.
Right? I think it's this one. That one. Hey-oh! Oh, there he is.
There he is.
My man, Joaquin Phoenix. So I've seen this film a number of times. I was saying before we went live, I'm a big, big fan of her. I think it's a great movie. It's nothing like you'd expect it to be. This is from Spike Jonze. He's a filmmaker who is hugely popular, even though he's only made 4 movies as a director. He made Being John Malkovich, which I own and love. He made Adaptation, which I own and love, and he made Where the Wild Things Are, which I also really enjoyed. I haven't bought that one yet. I haven't decided if I love it as much as those and as much as this movie. Again, we have very lonely characters. Joaquin Phoenix is a gentleman who has the perfect job for his character in the future. He's basically writing letters for people who feel like they can't do it for themselves. They send him little artifacts and things from their life, and he crafts a meaningful letter that they can send to a loved one. it's perfect for him as a character because he's so isolated and alone, yet has so many deep feelings he has no way to express except through a computer screen. And in this alternate sort of futuristic world, he gets the opportunity to upgrade his operating system. And the operating system is an AI. It actually connects his phone and his computers at home and work, and it becomes this sort of overriding system that speaks to him and anticipates his thoughts and needs. The voice of the AI is Scarlett Johansson. I think she's amazing with just her voice, what she can do. And the movie is really just this lonely guy and the relationship he sort of develops with his operating system. I thought it was beautifully done, and it takes some really bizarre twists late in the story. You get some fun cameos. You have Star-Lord himself, Chris Pratt, has a fun little random role in it. It's really worth your time. I would definitely say stream this movie. It's funny, it's meaningful, and at the end, you have some real powerful sort of thoughts that you're left with. So I would give it probably a 9 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
What about you, Perry?
Ranking wise, I would probably give it like a 8 out of 10, just because I've already seen it and I'm not gonna watch it again. But I thought it was pretty cool. I thought there was some pretty funny moments in the movie, some pretty sexualized moments that I was not expecting. That I was like, huh, all right then. Like, this is interesting. Lights are off in the house. This is something I was not expecting to hear coming out of Scarlett Johansson's mouth. And, it's something I'm not complaining about. So that was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it.
What about you, Ryan?
This movie spoke to me, unfortunately. There's certain movies that you don't really want to identify with. This is one of them. I think that like the more you feel like a guy like this, the worse off I think your life is going. And this guy, it struck me. That's all I think I could say about that. But he's super lonely and like meandering and kind of aimless in his life almost, and he's just going through the motions. And I think this movie, speaking as somebody who has like a really, really creepy inherent fear of AI and like robots and stuff, like, this movie is a perfect example of why I don't like Alexa or any like Google Home kind of stuff. And the whole movie, I was expecting Scarlett Johansson to take a turn and just go evil. And
there are elements of that in there, but certainly this is not a horror film, right? This is definitely a drama or a romantic comedy if you really wanted to go that way.
And I remember texting you guys while I was watching it saying like, I'm calling it now. She's going to go evil. That was not correct.
You commented that that if the more you relate to this character, the worse off you are. I would argue that there's that I did relate to him a lot, but what I liked is the sense of hope. He comes a long way and learns a lot about himself and understands the things he's doing wrong and the things he should be trying to do better. Clearly, this character, the divorce that he's going through, that's kind of like happening in the background of this story, is a huge part about where he is in his life. And as the film progresses, he finally gets to a place where he can admit some things about that relationship and what he needs going forward. So it really, I think, is hopeful in that you can be in these situations when you need the comfort of a video game, like he's playing that game with that horrible cursing little character.
Oh my god, I love that little guy. He's the best. How he moves like that, it was awesome.
I love the game. I love all that stuff, and then I love the way you have his neighbor across the hall and how she's using the same AI and he's using it, and the way they develop this bond between each other and between their AIs. I think it's very meaningful, and the potential for growth that we see at the end, I thought it was very hopeful.
I thought it was a little predictable, which I did not. I don't like being able to predict the plot of movies, especially because I'm really bad at like calling twists clearly about robots taking over the world. But the romantic resolution to the film is I don't think they're trying to pull a twist off on you. It's pretty.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
But it feels true to me. It feels very honest to me.
I agree.
So then, Ryan, is this a skip it or stream it for you?
Oh, no. This is absolutely a movie that you need to watch. It's a movie I was putting off for a long time just because I didn't know what it was. And now I watched it. This is the first time I saw this one. I'm probably going to give it an 8, too. I think that's a pretty good number.
Awesome.
8. Accurate.
Well, we're flying through these pretty quick. I do want to shout out Spike Jonze as a filmmaker, because Ryan was mentioning he has never read or seen any of Spike Jonze's movies. And if you get a chance, like Being John Malkovich, and Adaptation are two of the most original movies I've ever seen. Like a movie about a portal into the mind of John Malkovich, just that on its own, like, okay, I've got to see this. I need to know what this is about. It's an amazing, amazing masterpiece. And then, of course, I could say just as much quality things about Adaptation. I think he's a really original filmmaker. I feel like I see his movies and I feel like they're nothing like anything I've ever seen before.
We should comment, or at least I feel like I need to comment on the way this movie was shot. It looked really well. Like, there were a lot of lens flares, and just like the environment was really, it was almost minimal in a way. There's not a lot of like flying cars or like crazy weird future type things, like sci-fi tropes, I guess you could say. But the movie still gave off this kind of subtle, like near future feeling that was
cool.
That was cool. But for me, it's also a little creepy. Like the future, it worries me. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, so I think here we have two films back to back they're not like deep future. They're just a little ways into the future, and the possibilities in both cases, I mean, they don't seem alien. They seem within the realm of human. And, obviously we're not going to turn people into lobsters and any other thing like that. But at the same time, the both films feel very grounded in human reaction to things.
I mean, look, like I use like Siri throughout the day on my phone, like, hey, what's this or what's that, or what's the weather like, what's the traffic, So it's like it's not so far fetched to watch a movie and a guy is communicating with his phone, or has like, hey, you got these emails, it's from a lawyer, it seems urgent, like it seems like that's gonna happen, not if but when.
Yeah.
Can I say how disappointed I was that we did not see Colin Farrell actually turn into a lobster at the end of that movie?
What a letdown.
No, I wanted like his head on a lobster body, like swimming in a tank at a restaurant.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, Second Street Marvel, I totally agree. He's also an actor. I don't know if you know, Spike Jonze is in movies. He was in Three Kings with George Clooney, the Desert Storm film. He was one of the soldiers in George Clooney's little crew there. So he's in movies as well. And I want to say he helped his wife when they were together make that Scarlett Johansson movie with Bill Murray in Hong Kong. What was that? Lost in Translation. Yeah. So she was shooting that, and he was there with her, helping her shoot it.
I haven't seen that one either.
That's a great movie too. Scarlett Johansson's underrated. I think she gets people just label her as Black Widow. I think there's a lot more that she can do as an actress. All right, so I spoiled it earlier. My bad. So, but at least you got something good to look forward to, because boom, the last film we have here is Robot Booty Poster.
Could be worse, I guess. I picked Ex Machina. This was when we decided on sci-fi. This was like the first thing I thought of. Like sci-fi plus Netflix equals Ex Machina to me. And I just watched this movie for the first time maybe like 2 months ago. So this is still really, really fresh in my mind. And Perry, I watched it twice again in such a short span of time. It's about this guy who wins like a lottery he works at like a Google, Amazon kind of company, again, in the relatively near future. This is a little further down the line, I would say, than her probably is, but it's still pretty near. And he wins this like contest and goes to the head of the company, has this like estate out in the middle of kind of like the forest. And he goes to live with him as this guy is putting the finishing touches on Ava, this like robot that's on the poster. And he has the main character of the film, whose name I'm forgetting right now. That's always good.
Domhnall Gleeson. He's the same lead actor in About Time, which was my first pick.
That's where I knew him from. I was watching this movie like, where the hell is this guy?
He's also in Star Wars, the newer Star Wars films as was it General Hux.
Right. So yeah, we see him like have conversations with Ava throughout the course of the movie to kind of like test how advanced and accurate the AI is. That's kind of the short version, spoiler-free version of the plot.
Yeah, and so this film I've seen I think 3 times. I watched it once with my brothers on what we do these getaway weekends. My brothers and my dad and I, and we'll watch the movies. They're like, my wife doesn't want to see this. This looks like it's creepy. We'll watch this movie. So we watched this as a group, the 4 of us, and it blew me away. I mean, it was very creepy. I very claustrophobic because the whole film is basically in that estate you were talking about, and there's this sort of like trapped, you can only get through certain doors with your keypad,
windows.
What's that?
There's no windows. The whole place feels like a bunker kind of.
Well, yeah, that's what he said though in the movie. He's like, this isn't a home, this is a research facility.
Right.
And
so the hero character is very limited in what he can do inside the facility, and he starts seeing Ava as somebody who's in a similar situation in that she's even more restricted. Her space is limited to one room basically. And he's there to give I don't know the name of the test, but this famous test that you're supposed to be able to give to a computer to prove that it's thinking on its own. That's this, has your AI developed its own ability to think? And he's there to perform it on Ava to see if she's legitimately moved beyond just being a computer. It's wonderfully creepy. There's only really three actors. Primarily, there's a female character that doesn't do a whole lot or say a whole lot. She's kind of at the side, but I guess you could call her the maid. There's Alicia Vikander who plays Ava, and there's Domhnall Gleeson who's the guy on the trip, and then Oscar Isaac is amazing as this sort of unstable genius character. The dancing scene, it slays me every time. Where they're just all of a sudden they're just dancing. Let's just have music and party time. Slays
Tom
me.
and I listen to that song all the time when we're putting mail calls together. That song's
yeah, Jack. So Alex Garland is the director of this movie, and he's done a few other movies as a writer. And he directed last year's film Annihilation, which had Natalie Portman. Yes, Natalie Portman in the lead, and more of a sci-fi horror. And that one's out there too if you want to see it. But he's written a few other movies before that. And this was his first time directing a movie. He wrote 28 Days Later, the zombie film, Never Let Me Go, Sunshine, Dread, the Judge Dredd film.
Oh.
So some hit or miss. He does love sci-fi, and I would argue that it's possible this is his best film that he's made. Perry, what did you think?
I thought it was awesome. It was really good. The way you said it was creepy, I kind of didn't get a creepy feel until like the ending almost. I don't know, because I kind of got a good understanding. This is a research facility. It's not supposed to be like a retreat. You're not going to a buddy's house. Like, you're there to like work and stuff. But I don't know. I guess little by little towards the ending I didn't like at all. I was like, they just completely like, they shifted. I thought it was going to end it like happy. It was going to be like a love story almost. And it just completely turned left on me. I'm like, they left my favorite guy in the movie by himself. I don't know what happened. Is he okay? What's going on with him? Oh man. But it was really good.
I need to make a quick side note here and say I love to give Comic Jabroni crap for, in my opinion, he looks exactly like Oscar Isaac in this film. Gotta slip that one in there. My favorite character in this movie, for sure. I thought he was fantastic.
One of the first things Perry said to me when he'd finished watching this was like, "Hey, there's a lot of love stories this week," and I was like, "Okay." In my head, I was like, "If you think of this movie as a love story, I'm worried about your sense of love because I got creepy vibes from like the very first moments in this. It was." For me, it is the perfect yin yang to her, right? Because in this, we have the AI clearly evolving to crush man. And then the other, you have AI clearly evolving to realize, I don't need a man. Like they're speaking a similar language, but one definitely comes from the heart and one comes from the mind. And this one is the one from the mind for me. And I love what it's doing. I enjoyed it a lot, but I never felt like this was a love story. On every step of it, I was like, damn, this is not going to go well for just about anybody.
It could kind of be a love story in the sense that it's about a guy who's like falling for
A robot,
prisoner. Yeah, he's feeling sympathetic for her, and these feelings kind of evolve into affection and love. And you find out at the end that it might not be exactly what he's feeling. That might not be accurate. He may or may not be being manipulated. And it felt to me like kind of like an origin story almost for number 6. Like a Cylon, like somebody who's willing and able to use and manipulate their appearance and their sexuality to get what they need from people.
Definitely. So
I thought they were gonna make love in the movie when he started talking about how all her stuff works down there and she's got sensors. I was like, oh man, what kind of movie is this gonna turn into? I was waiting for it the whole time.
Oh man.
No, but I thought the guy who's like kind of like the CEO of like Google or Amazon, that one guy, I thought I thought he was the AI and he was tricking him the whole time to see if he would notice. Yeah, that's what I thought it was leading into. And then I started seeing this like waitress woman, butlerish, and I was like, maybe she's the AI. Because I'm like, he's like fully aware that this is a robot that he's talking to. But how cool would it be if he thought the whole time his boss he was talking to was the AI? That would have been a better test.
So you were looking for some big twist.
I was looking for a huge twist the whole time. It just ended pretty poorly.
There is a twist at the end, but it's definitely not that kind of twist.
How did she even get on the helicopter? Was she just like, hey, I'm here. Don't worry about the guy you're supposed to pick up. You know? Like what?
I think I took it as constantly the low bar of everybody who deals with this guy knows that whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. You just learn to deal with the unexpected. This guy's going to just be who he is. And if you show up to pick him up and some random chick gets in the chopper, you just fly the chopper, dude. That's your job. You just fly the chopper.
I guess.
Because everybody bows to this guy's everything all through the movie.
Yeah, I guess he wants to keep his job as a pilot. He flies whoever he has to out of there.
Yeah,
realistically, she's like the Google search engine. She could just kill the pilot and like drive the helicopter. I thought she was gonna do that because she could like learn to fly in like half a second.
Oh man, that's too freaking funny, man. So then, Perry, I'm assuming stream it.
Oh yeah, hands down, it's a great movie.
And Ryan.
Oh yeah.
And definitely for me as well, for sure. So then I guess, Ryan, before we went live, made the comment that we've got some very lonely characters in these films. Would you argue that's some kind of a weird theme in science fiction in general, or is it just these films?
I think it's a commentary on humanity. I think the more advanced our technology gets, the more isolated and alone we become. I think the internet is a really big good thing for humanity, but it's also bad because it enables us to kind of detach from each other in a way. And all 3 of these movies kind of look at the impacts of that compounded over time. As our technology gets better, we get more and more detached from each other.
That's a great comment. Perry, what are your feelings about loneliness? Is it a part of all science fiction in general, or is it just these 3 movies?
Well, I think it has to do with like you look at people that like the guy who's a coder. Well, you're sitting down, you're focused on a task. You don't really have time to go out, and everything else seems almost meaningless at that point because you're like your mindset is on something completely different, something that's gonna be big. So you're always trying to focus on your bubble. Like the movie we seen, the Imitation Game, from last week.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't need these crew of people. I'm hyper focused on what I'm doing, and it's like. You just isolate yourself because you don't have time to explain what's in your brain to other people that aren't even going to understand it, even if you tried to explain it.
Nice. Hey, Thoro's in the chat. Thank you for coming, Thoro. For me, I heard someone once say that like loneliness is like the all-time classic theme of story. Loneliness is the I Ching, right? It's the original idea that we all crave to be recognized and that loneliness is the opposite of that recognition. So clearly a future with a hero suffering from loneliness seems very relatable. I think that's it seems to me, for me at least, a very common, but it seems bigger in science fiction in some ways, that like that a future that's lonely seems a foregone conclusion in some ways.
Yeah, I could see that. It reminds me also, I'm thinking of like Neo at the beginning of the Matrix, you know, like somebody just in their house, just existing. And then you kind of extrapolate that out, and all these people in the pods in the Matrix, they're all living their own kind of little miniature existences. Should have watched that too, man. I'm gonna watch the Matrix again.
We know that that Perry is a big fan of that one for sure.
As you should be.
Better than Indiana Jones.
Not Indiana. Not Indiana. But we don't want to throw more shade at my man Perry here.
Oh man,
I'm on Perry. I'm on Team Perry on that debate.
Team Perry.
I'll publicly announce that one here.
So I'm going to run back through the films that we reviewed tonight. Let everybody kind of know what we went through, because this was fast. We blasted through this. So I'm sorry, Thoro, that you might have missed a little bit of it. But we started off with The Lobster, which is a film starring Colin Farrell. Seems to be a universal skip it.
Yep.
Not a big fan.
Nope.
Definitely felt scatterbrained to me. I know that Ryan wanted some more lobsters at the end.
Disappointing. What a lie.
I know that Perry fell asleep several times.
Yes.
We followed that with a Spike Jonze movie called Her, which stars the new Joker and Black Widow together. A DC Marvel mashup for you comic fans. That's Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson looking at future of AI as part of operating systems in our computers and phones. And on that film, we all agreed that it was a stream it. I think I liked it the most. I'm a big Spike Jonze fan. The other guys enjoyed it, but maybe not as much as I did.
Sure.
Fair. I really like it, though.
I know that it definitely touched some buttons as far as the modern, internet culture that we're all living in. Clearly, all of us being on YouTube.
Correct.
And we finished with Ex Machina. This was the Alex Garland film with Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac, dealing with an actual Android AI creation and the possibility of that being a horrible decision. Something that Ryan is a firm believer in, even though Perry wants to get it with a robot.
Hey, man, if you watch that movie and you don't want to get it with a robot, there's something wrong with it. Because that movie, man, the way he starts describing and then you start seeing it, like, all right, you can get out. I can get down with this. We're going to put my order on Amazon.
I'm tired. Oh, man. So those are our three films. We all agreed that Ex Machina was a stream it as well. You should check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. The darker sort of, I don't want to say horror, but certainly thriller version of the romantic comedy that maybe Her was presenting. So those are our films for tonight. Next week, we are doing screwball comedies. We have Chad, 90 Miles from Comics, is going to be joining us. And we got 3 movies for you. I'm throwing another black and white movie at my man Perry.
Oh, man.
He's going to have to deal with that.
Hey, I picked a good movie, though. I picked a good one.
Dude, it's a great movie. And you picked a good movie. Yeah. I agree. And it's going to be movies that are on Amazon Prime next time. So for those of you that have Amazon Prime already and are always like, hey, what can we watch? We'll throw 3 more movies at you, even though Ryan is shaking his head because he don't like that AI of Alexa.
The movie's about Jeff Bezos.
You're like you're like Detective Spooner. You're Detective Spooner in iRobot.
Oh, man. Slaying it. Thank you guys all for coming. It is hugely appreciated for you joining us and checking this out. As always, if you have a movie that you think we should be throwing in, or if you want to join us, we're starting to do themes. So we're looking at comedy next week. We had science fiction this week. If you have themes that you want us to include, leave all that stuff in the comments section down below, and I'll definitely get back to you and let you know. Until then, though, thank you all for coming. Have a great night.
Bye.